beneath the weight of humanity lies a roiling black psychic sea, filled with memories, wants, desires, needs. All of our emotions, experiences sinking, churning, making this tide. But for some, even on the surface, this tide is too much. The numerous billion other bodies on this world, all above the sea, the shared weight can't be handled. Not just believing, but hoping there is a way, hoping for quiet, for the weight on the sea to be lifted, to be alone. And they disturbed something else that wants humanity to go away. Something that hates it, something that hates you, something that hates the host, something that hates. Hi, hello, and welcome back to CAIN, where you play as a psychic exorcist hunting down the stain of humanity's sins. Today's sin is the Centipede. Please stop screaming. Now, the Centipede, oh man, the Centipede. So the screaming isn't really it. It could be it, honestly. It hates everything, even itself. But really, it's a complicated one. I mean, how to put it? Simplistic in its efforts. Even more so than the Hound in some cases. But the reasoning and exact way it's conjured is quite rare, to the point that it doesn't show up like the others that often. Like everything else we've covered so far is relatively common, even the two after this one. Still more common than the Centipede. For a multitude of reasons, it's not that common, or at least doesn't reach a sin event that often. But yes, our fourth sin, and oh boys, this is gonna be something. So all the others were more a personal issue, or issues with another person. Now for a lot of these previous comparisons, like the idol and the ogre, I kind of contrasted them to each other, even though that doesn't work one-to-one with domains or traumas. The ogre wants to be alone, the idol wants everyone to love them. You have a similar situation where the Hound and the Centipede relate to each other, slightly. Now the Hound is more about precise killing, or at least hunting down a single target. Now the list goes on forever and ever, if you remember that episode. However, the Centipede... The Centipede doesn't care about a single target. If anything, it wants to hit as many as possible. Both will kill. It's just that the Hound's more personal about it, and the Centipede just hates you. Hates everything. But to further describe that hate before going into the traumas, it's not... Well, while the Centipede just hates. That's its primary emotion, just hatred. Not vengeance, not injustice, not revenge. Not even hating a specific target or thing, just hate. Now, the Centipede has a very strange way of forming. Yes, there's a traumas like any other sin, but it needs to have a very, very specific host. A host that fantasizes about escapism through mass death. A very specific niche that isn't that specific when you think about it. I mean, it is. You normally don't want a situation where you're consistently thinking, man, I'd be so better off if just everyone died. But then just gotta think back to all those like zombie survival situations you might be thinking of. Anything post-apocalypse or current apocalypse, outbreaks, nuclear wars, or even just people disappearing. That's another thing that's fantasized. Usually pretty harmless, but it's such a specific niche, and one that's surprisingly common enough that when it crops up within someone that has a sin seed, you get a Centipede. The Centipede filling in for that apocalypse and that mass death. Hence the hate, hate society. Hate the way of things, hate the world you're in. But outside of the specific traumas, this can form in potentially anyone. So much so it's very difficult to actually track. There is no specific category of people to look out for on like, oh, they might be prone to making a Centipede. It can be anyone. Just anyone not happy with where they currently are and blaming everything else around them. Just only if everyone was gone, it'd be fine. When these thoughts and emotions can physically manifest, it's a bad time. But on to said manifestation, the traumas that make it. What are you trying to escape? What do you hate the most about humanity? And what do you regret most? Man, that second question, that's something forming from that's gonna be bad. But back to the Centipede and its hate and the form it takes, the Centipede itself. Because, the namesake, it's a Centipede. Not even just more abstract. It can still be abstract, it can still be like leaning into a Centipede, but it specifically looks monstrous. An insectoid. It's a Centipede. Like, even with the archive images you get, some of them, like, have a bit of a difference, but they all look like a Centipede. Big, long body, hundreds of limbs, or 100. Could be strange heads, could be taking on a more, like, deific form. It's got a lot of legs, insect-like, monstrous, and related to that apocalyptic scenario in your mind somehow. Oh, and speaking of that mind, the host, its relation to the host. So, okay. Usually when it comes to sins, there's some general opinions leaning towards their host. They might like them, they might not, they might ditch them. Some, like the ogre, have a specific attachment, similar to the Lord, but the Centipede has a very, very, very particular and universal opinion of its host. It hates them. I know, I just said hate a lot, and especially the intro, that the Centipede hates everything, and it does, even itself, but it hates the host the most. To the point that there has been no recorded Centipede bound It would rather demanifest itself, just die, before giving in to someone else, giving in to the host specifically. The Centipede is angry that it exists. It hates the fact it's been made, the fact that it's been formed and doing this entire petty thing for you. This mass slaughter, this mass death, petty. The fact that you, a human, rejected humans. It hates the host so much so that the host has no choice in its interactions. Potentially. Again, there's the no binder thing, but it takes the host and puts them in the center of the palace, making it a death trap in and out. 1, to stop anyone from saving the host, and 2, to stop the host from getting out. It's not booby-trapping its palace to keep people out, necessarily. It will, but just to stop them from helping the host escape. And as its host is in that palace, it's not kept away, isolated, personally tortured, it's just meant to watch. Watch what it's doing, watch the repercussions of what it's made. The Centipede's only doing as they wished, bringing that death and escape they always wanted. Now with the hate of its host so much, there's a current running theory within CAIN that any Centipede that actually gets to the point of finishing killing everyone in its domain will then go to the host and then demanifest itself. It won't actually go through with a sin event, it's here for one very specific purpose: kill everyone around and related to the host, and then go. Though you do have the fact that it's a theory. There aren't any actual records of a Centipede sin event, namely because they've never been allowed to get to a sin event. Because, man, that is very bad, the body count on any of these. Because you don't even have to worry for the sin event, which would just happen to kill a bunch of people if it's not directly malicious. This is directly malicious, and not even to individuals. It's just trying to do the killing ahead of time. The Centipede's palace. Now, we briefly mentioned it was already booby-trapped and dangerous, but it's namely a prison. Again, here to keep the host. Could be a dungeon, a castle, stronghold, an ancient laboratory, an insane asylum, keeping the host in the very center of it, forcing them to watch with 100 different screens flickering, showing what's happening in the outside world through the eyes of the Centipede and all the infested. Its palace is not hostile on accident, it's hostile and difficult to get through on purpose. Outside of just being this prison, it's usually slightly related to whatever the disaster is. So if the Centipede's bringing nuclear fallout to the outside in its domain, it might look like a nuclear bunker on the inside. Big vault door sealing the host in. Pressure and traces of the Centipede, because they're kind of tied together like the idol. So, similar to the idol and its cult, how they're kind of its traces. The true, proper cult members, the idol's influence is there directly in their head. A little bit of it spread throughout the entire commune. When it comes to the Centipede, it's a lot more physically delivered through venom and bites. As we've got a zombie apocalypse with the infested. Acting as the traces, the pressure, whenever it ticks up, 10% of the local population has been converted. Bitten with incurable centipede venom, and after 44 minutes, they will be changed into this husk of some kind. It can vary depending again on the specific manifestation of the sin, but usually bug-like, or at least that core basis. There might be an exoskeleton underneath the flesh if you cut away at it, but it's a zombie. The hordes of zombies. It's instead of the thinking of the cultists, it's a mass shambling horde trying to go after you, controlled by the Centipede. The biggest danger is the bite, because you're an exorcist, yeah. You're resistant, not immune. Providing another additional unique mechanic that's kinda tied into the pressure, kinda not. It's just a feature, related directly to the infested though. So Centipede venom. Incurable, the psionic and physical form of it. And it's not just the Centipede that spreads it, it's also the infested. Classic, you get bitten, that's bad. And if you're a normal human, you have 44 minutes. That's it, just 44 minutes. After that point, you're gonna die, go through some kind of metamorphosis, and come back as an infested. There is no actual cure, there's different materials CAIN has provided to, kind of hold it back or delay it. But otherwise, before they transform, you need to kill the Centipede. That'll save them. Though to its effects on you, because you are not immune to it. You won't transform in the same way, and you're also not entirely resistant. It's not like some of the effects where you can just buffer it off or the sin can't directly affect you. No, when you're bit by the Centipede or the infested, that's gonna be a bad time. New clock ticking in the background, and every scene after it's full, you just take sin points. Just immediately take it, potentially going imago. As due to your psionic nature yourself and already going through these different possible changes, the venom just makes it worse. Instead of making you an infested, it just might make you into another Centipede in the worst case. Longer time period, longer transformation than 44 minutes, but that's a possibility. Now, fighting a Centipede is so terrible. Alongside this venom, and alongside just the general lethality, and especially the domains we go into later. Veteran exorcists, or exorcists that have, a higher standing than the people that are in lower ranks or cat, they specifically maneuver around the politics of CAIN to have this assignment go to other exorcists if they can help it. Just because centipedes suck. Because while the hound was going after a specific target, and if you got in its way, you ended on its list, the centipede just wants to kill you. Wants to kill everyone. Kill everything. And yeah, that comes up later. Centipede severe attack. vitriol. Now, as per usual, once per mission, 5d6, and you have a bunch of questions. Remove a dice for every yes. But before going into those questions, what vitriol is, as it literally spits vitriol, a psionic physical form, this boiling mutagenic venom. That's not like its usual. Not changing into the infested. It wants you dead and gone. Now to the questions, can you move quickly and unhindered? Is someone aiding you in the fact that they can like push you out of the way or grab you? Can you forgive the centipede host? That might seem easy just by saying yes, just to get rid of the damage, but this thing's trying to kill you, and the host made this to kill people, maybe unintentionally. Well, the host did want you dead. And then, is the centipede hindered or under duress in any way? Now back to the venom. It dissolves all obstacles and flesh in its way to get to the target. Now, if you roll a single one, then you gain an injury and roll for a permanent scar, which is pretty bad. You know, acid burn, skin melting, fingers welded together or melted together, horrific scarring after melting your flesh. And then if you roll at least 2 ones, one of 3 things can occur. It doesn't specify whether you pick or the admin picks or you roll, it's just one of 3 things. Suffer instant death. Immediately suffer sin overflow to avoid instant death, or take an injury and roll 3 times on the scar table. Because I don't know about you, but I'd be picking, well, I got actually too many injuries and you die anyway. No, it sucks. Because the ogre one, yes, is doing a lot of damage at injuring you, the hound's flaying you alive, but the centipede's vitriol just has instant death as an option. Then something to avoid instant death, and then just an additional injury which can lead to death. And just even more scarring. Literally spitting vitriol. Now to the centipede afflictions. So first we have Seethe, where you grow to hate one of your fellow exorcists. Pick one in the party and you begin to share that same hate for another. Every time they roll a 6, you gain 1 stress, as you just can't handle them being okay, or doing well. Limb necrosis, so roll for what limb is affected. Checks become hard with that, as all of a sudden it begins rotting from the inside. Black and bloated, small bugs beginning to break out from under the skin. Acid degradation. It's not even just you it's trying to kill, it's trying to destroy everything. Where it's not the venom being spewed at you by the centipede or it's infested, but acid. Just acid. Burning away your equipment, both unused and what you have currently. 1d3 kit points just goes away, and when you rest, another one, as it's slowly burning away through the scene. Next is alienation, that disregard for others, that despising of others, where you add permanently to your agenda, ignore a plea for aid. Which might not come up all that often in other hunts. I mean, still could, you're fighting sins. But especially when the entire local population in a domain is being attacked by the infested, it's more likely to come up that there might be someone asking for aid. Not to mention it can also apply to your fellow exorcists. Next is hive brain, this aerosol poison or influence from the horde, this mass death, this degradation of thought as the centipede doesn't want you to think, doesn't want you here, wants you empty. As anything that requires focus, intense thought, investigation, technology, checks around those things become hard. And lastly, let it end, where you basically become a centipede yourself. Kill needlessly. Not necessarily slaughter, not butcher everyone, but kill needlessly. You kill when it's not needed. Now we're here at the domains. So, every sin has 8. Whenever you're the admin, you pick 3, usually related to the traumas. These are the abilities and specific traits that more define the strengths of this one particular sin you're fighting. And first off, the centipede's venom, both in itself and its victims, the infested, becomes boiling. Not even just with vitriol, just as a basis. And more worryingly, pressurized. They can shoot them at a distance. When it comes to the infested, it's a short range, and when it's the centipede, it's described as a sniper rifle. This in itself doesn't have to get anywhere close. It can be on top of a building wrapped around it, just shooting at you across an entire town. Meanwhile, the hordes of infested are all in your way of getting to it, also firing this venom. On top of that, the venom gains a new effect, with a new affliction, blinding ague. As you're affected by this new form of the venom, your eyes become milky white, blinding you. Any activities that rely on sight become hard because you're now blind. And of course, at the end of the mission, roll a dice. If you roll a 1, it's permanent. So not only do they now have ranged attacks, they can also blind you from a range. So it's even harder to go against them or to see the shot coming. And again, before we leave this one, like a sniper rifle. Their venom becomes an aerosol, the landscape itself decaying, not just the people it's infecting. The very area of its domain, wherever the centipede is going, is actively being destroyed, degraded, killed. Killing things. Killing everything, again, not just people, or everyone, it's everything. And that everything includes your items. So anything you've pulled out of your kit, that you have out before a rest, whenever you go to take a rest after pulling it out, or having it out at the start of the mission, it degrades and is unusable. Just gone. So be careful and ration when you take equipment out. And the landscape itself, any structure that is actively degrading. becoming worse, melting away, or rotting away. Whatever particular flavor of the centipede, the structure is now difficult, risky, or hard to go through. As you're traveling through, a roof falls on you, you fall through the floor, the doorway you were hoping was going to stop the infested behind you just falls off its hinges. And it doesn't have to pick any specific structure. Every time its pressure increases, the number of buildings in the area affected also increases by the same percentage of the infested. So 10%, 20%, etc. Until the pressure increases all the way and it's just all ruins. Going with the zombie analogy, we have special infected. Similar to the apostles underneath the idol, which I got mixed up and called acolytes. These are your one big tough juggernaut. An armored bug or beefed up dead, usually appearing alongside the horde, but the big issue outside of just mass strength is the fact it's armored. Whether it's the fact it can take a lot of blows or just actually is bug-like and armored. Follows the same rules of the Hound, or some of its natural armor, but you need to have something to make it vulnerable or some very powerful thing to get through it. Buddying up to try and distract it, to hit it in a weak spot in its back, but you do have one benefit against it, it's blind. And you also don't fight this thing alone, it's going with the infested, there's a horde alongside it. Being the center of the infested horde, its own little pocket, spreading this aerosol around it, making any kind of complex thought also difficult to concentrate. Again, the zombie trope. The infection spreading fast, people are getting bit, hiding it. Individual runners going around, instead of slowly meandering and being able to defend yourself from it, they're sprinting at you. But this isn't really a buff to the infested themselves. They're still a horde, they're still able to be cut down by your own psychic abilities. The issue is they're so fast and spread so quickly that they can breach quarantine. So not following the pressure, having its own separate clock. Once it finally reaches that clock, the infection has broken out of the quarantine zone that CAIN set up. And just like any other cleanup that CAIN has to deal with, your script is being docked. But on top of that infection spreading, is not knowing who's infected. You see, yeah, the centipede can directly attack them, or the infested attacking an NPC you already know, but the infection is already spreading through the population so quickly that whenever you meet a new NPC, the admin rolls to see 50-50 whether they're already infected or not, hiding it in any case. Oh, that's another thing. While some people might not be able to see the, well, centipede itself, you're gonna see the corpse walking around. Also as a new tension move for the admin gets to pick one exorcist or an NPC, they have to have at least fought the infected once this mission, and just reveals that they've been infected. No roll or anything, you just pick as a tension move. Oh, that's mean. Continuing with the zombie analogy, more special infected, these ones are stealthy. And yes, they come in pairs. Still not a whole infested group on themselves, and not an individual. They're a double team, they even share the same health and stats. But outside of just actively trying to be stealthy, ambushing you, fighting you when you're vulnerable, double teaming you, they can also just go invisible. Or nearly invisible. The centipede having its own private assassins, not just able to hide within the crowd of the rest of the infested because they're not as big or hulking as the juggernaut, but they're trying to be stealthy, they're hunters, and making your day a whole lot worse. To summarize very quickly, Centipede has a Phase 2. If it wasn't already bad enough, if its pressure wasn't a difficulty, if the infested weren't already an issue, or it's decaying the landscape around it, once you finally kill it, Phase 2 happens. As once it's finally executed, it gains back 4 ticks healing instantly end this round and start a new one, and while the Centipede is in this form, you roll the risk dice twice, and take the lower option, which just sucks, and then on top of that, it's always taking one less slash from attempting to execute it further or any kind of damage, and is dealing an additional 1 damage. But luckily for you, this is a final spasm, a final attempt to try and get back at you as the Centipede is destabilized. Not demanifested, just weakened to a point that it cannot fight any longer, but not dead. It's hatred keeping it alive and left at your mercy. This is just, it's kept alive by its hate, its spite. It just suddenly grows in strength at its own hatred of being defeated, of the fact you beat it. But being kept alive by its own spite, you were about to kill it. It did die. You finished its execution talisman, but it still rears back and attempts to kill you. It must kill. Now, just like the centipede makes its palace trapped, it can make everything trapped. Or at least everything in its domain, as it leaves behind either parts of its body or just dangerous hazards that's manifested around, here to kill you, or infect you, or to hinder you. You actually get a whole list of options you get to pick. Ooh, forgot another description on what it's described, not just parts of it or things it's manifested, but it also can use parts of the infested to make traps. Just these fusions of flesh against the wall to try and damage you or hinder you or leap out at you. Essentially a necromorph playing dead, with his weird fleshy walls. But as a tension move, the admin can declare that a place you're currently traveling into is trapped. Not just a new location either, this can be a place you've explored before. So obviously, booby trap location, moving through it becomes risky, and then whenever the trap triggers, you have a list of options. You can instantly deal 1 stress to either 1 or 2 exorcists, make an area hard or dangerous to travel through. I mean, it's booby-trapped already, of course. You can give an exorcist an affliction, which sucks. Centipede doesn't even have to be there to give it to you. Or you can inflict a new hook specific to the trap. And it's not just separate locations or these pockets here and there within its domain. Whenever you're directly fighting the Centipede, if you roll a 1 on the risk dice, a trap just goes off. Just somewhere. It's not even just at your fault or the Centipede hitting you, it's just the fact that the landscape you're fighting in is booby-trapped. Again, this thing just wants you dead. It's not playing games, it just wants you dead. And again, you're an exorcist. These traps are also around for other mortal people. Now, the Centipede usually isn't specifically messing with the mind games. This is the exception. So we've already mentioned with some of the other domains and just exorcists in general that these sins can sense other psionic entities, other ripples in the Black Sea. But just like how some sins can give you some strength if you lean into their own influence, Centipede can gain some strength from just making you hate it. So once a scene, the Centipede or infested in front of the exorcist kill a bystander, the Centipede gains 1 tick on its execution. Not healed, just permanently gains 1 tick. Permanently gains 1 health. If the exorcists intervene and save the bystander, it doesn't get this health. Then again, it's once a scene, and it can do it up to 4 times. It's not limited to trying this 4 times, it's limited to benefiting from it 4 times. It can go up to +4 permanently. Once a hunt as a tension move, the Centipede can reveal a group of survivors to the exorcist, ones that are immediately in peril. A reminder, not in a conflict scene, not directly being slaughtered, just that they're under threat, the infested banging down on their door, their barricaded windows, the Centipede lining up a shot with venom. Could be now, could be later, could be an inevitable death. Now after this reveal, if the exorcists go to rest, all of them are dead. All those survivors. And the Centipede gains +3 to its execution. Permanently. On top of the other possible +4 from this domain earlier. It can have +7. Not just increasing in pressure, which itself is a dangerous issue if it gets to the point of reaching max. But it can gain 7 total health on top of its execution. It's already difficult to fight. It's already trying to kill you. It's already just a menace. And it's now just tankier and tankier and tankier after it's slaughtered and slaughtered, butchered, cut apart, ended. But that is the Centipede. It's that hate, but not just that feeling behind it, but the actions it does through hate. That killing, that removal, that slaughter, wanting everyone and everything gone. This is not something following just a basic emotion. It is, but this is a disaster. In both a physical and psionic form. It's messy, it's loud, it's in the open, it's killing thousands. All to show in front of the host. This apocalyptic swarm of insects infesting everyone, digging into the flesh of others, breaking through the skin, showing an exoskeleton underneath, tearing apart physically through any sort of resistance, melting away the faces of anyone they get close to. It's a wild mob filled with hate for everyone, everything, each other, with this endless 100-armed thing behind them driving the mob forward. A living, chittering trench line, itself indented into the ground. The infested rising above the edges of the trench, its host kept within a no man's land. Traps made of the strewn, blown apart corpses, or a 100-armed angel, heralding Judgment Day. These are the forms a Centipede can take, of the infested, of those afflicted by it, of that hate, that desire for the end of everything, for the end of everyone. It's not even the sin event. It's not even the fact that in its very nature it's hazardous to all the mortals around it, even other psychics, other entities, flesh in space. It hates flesh in space. It hates everyone. It hates you. It hates the host. It hates humanity. Execute it. Thank you for watching the video on the Centipede. Man, it was hard to get away from zombies, especially when looking for examples of infested. I mean, come on. But yes, the Centipede. Now, there will be more archives coming, partly to make up for how long this took. I think the next 2 Ogre will come out pretty soon. But in any case, thank you for watching the video. A thank you to my patrons, and have a nice day.